My name is Jeremy, and this is a bonus series of the Good Beer Matters podcast from the 2022 Craft Brewers Conference. Every year, the Brewers Association puts together the Craft Brewers Conference, or CBC, as a means for industry professionals to continue their education, network with peers, and improve quality and performance. I attended this year's CBC as a member of the media, and because there are plenty of beer pros that didn't make it, I want to share a few of the many exhibitors that I think you ought to know about. Some of these companies I'm already familiar with, and I personally know they're doing great things. But some I recently discovered and thought were cool enough to share with you. Either way, I hope you enjoy this highlight of CBC 2022. Oh, and by the way, I have not been compensated by any company to produce this series. I simply want to help good things get out into the world. Why? Because good beer matters, of course. Thank you for listening. Cheers.
Anyway, we're standing outside the faux hop garden at the Craft Brewers Conference in
Minneapolis.
Sunny Minneapolis. This has been spectacular. But you and I have spent a lot of time together virtually lately, and so I'm glad to finally meet you in person. But I'm dying to know, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Miranda Amato. I'm based in Toronto, and I am a craft beer and sensory consultant, and recently released the online course, Mastering Beer and Food Pairing, brought to you by Beerology, which is how you and I connected.
And you're also a Master Cicerone and a
German's beer sommelier.
Thank you. That's I can't pronounce it.
While we're making lists, the author
Yes.
of award-winning book, Beerology.
Yes, absolutely. Beerology, fantastic book. So that's who you are, and that's why we should listen to you. And so you spend a lot of time doing beer education. Have spent a lot of time with beer education. You're continuing, as we just talked about offline, you're continuing to do beer education. But tell us about this new course on beer and food pairing. I mean, I'm a raging fan of beer and food together when it goes well, but tell us about the course.
Sure. Well, it's a course that I've been noodling around for about, I would say, 10 years. Because pairing beer with food is figuring out how to explain how to pair beer with food is very challenging. I think certainly for those of us who started a while back, there aren't that many resources out there. Most of the resources are either, here are a couple of pairings that work.
And it seems very esoteric to begin with.
Yeah.
It's like, like paint a symphony or play a sunrise. It's like, wait, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So so for many of us, there's a huge instinctive piece to how we do it.
Yep.
And the challenge I set for myself was to sort of really observe what I do. I, had the good fortune of creating a number of beer and food pairing courses along the way, so it helped me process and really come up with like a step-by-step how to pair beer with food that would be useful and that would, empower people to really understand how to do it as opposed to just have this instinctive notion.
Yeah, and when I took your course, when you finally released your first course, I took it. I had just passed my advanced Cicerone, so I had spent some time with beer. I had spent some time with food, and you're right. For me, it was very instinctive, intuitive thing. I've developed pretty good flavor memories, and so I can put them together. But what you provided, at least for me and other people in this class, was a framework. Like, if you don't have that experience or the intuition, how to approach it from a step-by-step format. And I thought that was really ambitious and well executed.
Or if you're stuck, right?
Or if you're stuck.
Sometimes you just freeze, the intuition isn't like immediately there, or something changes last minute. And so to be able to understand, okay, this is how I need to adjust it from, just a very theoretical perspective, I think is useful.
Well, because now I have a couple different approaches to figure this out. If I get stuck, if what do you pair with pickles or nacho cheese? I'm like, well, give me a minute. Yeah. I can then reroute my brain from my lack of knowledge and go into a step-by-step approach and work through the problem and come up with something good and grand.
Yeah.
Who is this class for exactly?
Pairing beer with food is an awesome skill, so I would say, anyone who wants to acquire that skill.
Absolutely.
But the way I sort of thought about it when I was putting together the course is that when I started in beer, the big goal was just to get craft beer out there, because craft beer was a niche beverage that was in like craft beer bars.
You mean microbrews?
For beer, yes, microbrews.
Back in our day.
And I feel like now we've gotten to a stage where there's flavorful beer everywhere,
Yeah.
right? You know, stadiums, a lot of hotels, bars of all kinds, restaurants. And so for me, the next step is to, you know, make the most out of those beers, like
Yeah.
use them to their maximum potential. And as you know, if you put together a good pairing, I mean, it's mine, but both the food and the beer taste better. It's a great experience. So I really had in mind people who work with beer. So because of that, if you don't work with beer, I would say you do need to know your styles, because I just assume beer styles in the course.
So
I'll say blah,
can't-
blah, 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 porter, blah, 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 pilsner. And I mean, you could pause the course and Google it, but you're not, you know, that's not the same
So
experience.
this class is not for day one in learning about beer, getting into the beer industry. That's right. This would be more like a 301 class, like after you've got the basics down.
Yeah, well, maybe 201.
201,
I
okay.
would say 301. And you know, anyone who's been enjoying beer for a while is probably pretty familiar with styles.
Sure.
You know, certainly anyone who home brews, it's
Sure.
a no-brainer. It's just that someone who works with beer will have like assimilated that information.
Yeah.
And the other important piece is you do now have to have some confidence tasting beer, because it's an online course and it can be completed with any beer. So if I say identify the dominant note in this beer, I need you to, you know, be able to with confidence say like, okay, well this is a porter and it's got like a strong chocolate note. I'm going to say chocolate.
Yeah.
Why am I stuck on porters today? Maybe because I had a delicious one yesterday. Anyway.
Good reason?
Yeah. So the point is, I'm not there, right? I can't taste it and say yes, you are correct, or no, you are not correct.
Yeah.
So a certain amount of confidence tasting. You know, there's no crazy hard questions in terms of, you know, tasting. It's not like
Sure.
identify 50 flavors in this beer and break them down by subcategory, but you know, you have to have enough confidence to be able to describe what you're tasting.
Great. And so, and that kind of follows the flows. Like first you learn about beer, how it's made, the ingredients of process and the beer styles and all that stuff. And then eventually it's like, then you arrive at, so now what do we do with
Yeah.
this thing? And so that's
right.
You come to answer that. This is what you do with this
And
thing.
I would argue that if you're not able to identify flavors and you don't know how to navigate a beer selection, you're going to have a hard time pairing beer with food.
Gotcha.
Anyway, right? Because you need to be able to think,
Yep.
okay, this food tastes like this. I need a beer that tastes like this. Oh, I know what kind of beer tastes like this.
If all beer
right?
tastes the same and all food tastes like chicken, then there might be some prerequisites you take before your class.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But this isn't just for beer nerds. This could be for restaurant staff. This could be for
Yes.
distributors. This could be for anyone who works in the world of beer and food in some capacity. Is
That's
that
right.
fair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are the people that I designed the course for. But it's been really interesting. I've had a wide range of people take the course, and you know, everyone's gotten something out of it. I even had someone who was studying styles while taking the course, which was a little bit, I think, ambitious. But she had a great time, and you do have access to the course for an extended period of time. So
Well,
you
and
can
she
always
probably
pop back in.
she probably won't ever forget those styles.
That's right.
The retention will probably be really high by doing that, I would
and
imagine.
she's putting together great pairings.
That's
so
awesome.
It's wonderful.
So ultimately, this is all geared toward delivering an excellent customer experience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how do you define a great customer drinking and eating experience?
Well, I think there's a couple of different pieces to that. I'm a very into hospitality personally. So for me, like, a very large piece of the customer experience is, you know, hospitality, friendliness, you know, listening to the customer, so on and so forth. But when it comes to beer and craft beer in general, I think one of the things that time has proven is definitely what provides a good customer experience is something new, right? Something new and exciting. And a lot of people have done some food pairing or dabbled a little bit, but a lot of people still haven't tried it. And a lot of people haven't necessarily had that experience of like an amazing pairing, right?
Yeah.
Because in the course, we do the basics of how to just put together a good pairing. But then in the advanced section, there's a bunch of little tips that you can use to really bring your pairings to the next level and do something that's really going to surprise people. And I think that element of surprise creates a memorable experience, and that's when you get customer retention, right?
Well, and I love how you and I both have different experiences, but some history with music. And so I love how you take a song that you've heard a million billion times, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to move on from that song. But then they come out with a remix, and it's just like all new again. For me, it's like when you taste this, yes, I love all beer, but when you have this beer style a million times, it's not fresh and top of mind. But when you learn a new pairing, a new way to use this beer, to me, that's the remix in beer and food.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And that's where beer and food pairing comes in, is to make it new again.
Or even a different pairing, right? Maybe you're used to always having this beer with this food, and if you have someone who can point you to a different pairing, that'll bring out a different element to the beer or a different element to the food. I mean, we could geek out forever.
All day long.
It's delicious.
And I was just talking to some brewers from Oklahoma, I think, and we were talking about beer and barbecue, and they're making a Weizenbock, and said, oh, that's great with barbecue. And they looked at me like I just said a dirty word or something like that they'd never heard before.
Wow.
And they were just like, never really thought of that. It's like, yes, try a different beer with the same food that you love, and it's a completely new thing.
I'm getting hungry.
I know, right? Are you ready for lunch? Let's go get some lunch.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for putting this course out there. If anyone wants to learn more about it or take a class, where do they go?
The website is beerology.thinkific.com.
Yes, and you can get an advanced degree in beerology.
Yeah, you get a badge that you can post on LinkedIn. It's verified. It has your pass date, your name. It's pretty cool.
Right on.
I'm into the badge.
I need to circle back around and work on my badge, but anyway, that's where you can find it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.